Ist die Sims 4 gerade regelrecht am Verrotten? Diese Frage stelle ich mich aktiv momentan sehr oft und sehr viel. Und ich werde auch persönlich dazu nochmal ein Video machen, weil es gewisse Dinge gibt, die mich gerade sehr beschäftigen. Aber der liebe Setch on Sims hat ein Video rausgebracht, was mich nicht nur vom Thumbnail sehr angesprochen hat. Und das möchte ich gerne mit euch angucken, denn es geht so ein bisschen darum, warum die Sims 4 ein kaputtes Spiel ist und wie das Spiel leider Stück für Stück am Sterben ist. Los geht's.
You might have clicked on this video thinking you were entering a Sims 4 gameplay video of my sim literally rotting to death, which is a thing in The Sims 4 if you want to do that. But today I'm focusing more on something that's not spoken about very much.
Ganz kurz, ist das da ein echtes Tier auf seiner Couch oder? Ich glaube, ist das ein Kuscheltier?
With The Sims 4, which is software rot. We all know The Sims 4 is a very, very buggy game. There is no denying that. Whether you have no packs installed or all packs installed, you will encounter tons and tons of bugs and performance issues, which to a certain extent is inevitable in a game like The Sims. If you're trying to simulate the whole of life from many different aspects, it's only natural that every now and then you do experience some bugs. So to a degree, I do not blame The Sims 4 for having some bugs. In fact, every single Sims game has had a ton of game-breaking bugs and glitches.
Das ist auch eine Sache. Leute, das ist so ein vielschichtiges Spiel. Natürlich hat es Bugs und Probleme. Jedes Spiel hat irgendwo Bugs und Probleme. Die Frage ist nur, wie geht man damit um und fängt man an, sie zu beheben oder sie einfach noch mehr Packs und Sets und Packs zu spammen, was das Problem nicht löst, sondern nur noch schlimmer macht.
When I look back at The Sims 3, a very notable one for me was the Island Paradise expansion pack, which totally bugged out all the time. It was basically unplayable. In The Sims 2
Bei mir in Sims 3 war ein ganz anderes Problem. Ich musste mit anhand eines Cheats immer die Hausboote deaktivieren, weil mein Spiel unglaublich laggy und unglaublich langsam war und es kam irgendwann raus, dass diese Hausboote in meiner Umgebung festgebuggt sind und dadurch mein Spiel sich komplett zusammengezogen hat und nichts mehr ging. Das heißt, ich musste wirklich jedes Hausboot aus meiner Welt entfernen und es quasi resetten. Ich durfte also aktiv kein Hausboot besitzen, außer ich habe aktiv eins gespielt, weil das bei mir immer...
as well, game corruption was very, very easy if you accidentally deleted a graveyard or if you deleted a house from your household bin. The Sims 4, on the other hand, though, just feels different. Whereas The Sims 3, for example, just had one very broken pack, The Sims 4 has multiple very broken packs. My Wedding Stories is a very, very obvious one. This pack is
bis heute eine Katastrophe.
It's a faulty product. It doesn't work. I played with the pack, not just me, but other Sims content creators have played with it online, and I've never seen one person play with this pack and not have it break down. The exact same thing could be said for Dine Out. This pack is fundamentally broken to the core. Actually,
also ich muss auch ehrlich sagen, an sich liebe ich es ja mit anderen Sims essen zu gehen und Restaurants zu gehen, aber in Sims 4 macht es macht keinen Spaß. Es ist so weird. Es funktioniert nichts. Wenn man jetzt Gaumenfreude und Hochzeitspack in einem macht, also eine Hochzeit auf einem Restaurantgrundstück, würde man das Spiel dann zerstören? Ich frag für einen Freund.
Dining out at a restaurant is almost impossible. Trying to take your Sims to high school with high school years is a near enough impossible task. The most recent pack for Rent has a ton of bugs and glitches with the landlord.
Oh, also wirklich. Ich habe Stand Mai 2024 heute noch Spieler und Freunde, die Sims 4 nicht mehr nutzen können, weil das Spiel, obwohl sie keine Mods drin haben und alles bereinigt haben und neu installiert haben, das Zu-Vermieten-Pack hat irgendwie gefühlt nochmal alles auf den Kopf gestellt. Ja. Ist ganz gruselig.
Tenant events, and ever since the pack has been released, there's still the bug that you don't even get paid as a landlord. The key prominent feature of the pack was broken on launch and is still broken, and there's no sight of it being fixed. The get to work life careers don't work, even though the whole pack is about going to work and experiencing careers. There's something fundamentally broken with almost every single major Sims 4 pack, and not just the pack, but also the base game updates as well. Yes, I'm looking coming at you, infants update. Infants don't really work very well at all in this game. So how does this relate to the concept called software rot? Software rot is basically the slow deterioration of the quality of a piece of software gradually over time. This will ultimately lead to the software eventually becoming totally unusable, and as it continues on, it gets even less fixable. There are many different causes of rotting code, but the most prominent one, which is the most likely one in The Sims 4, is called spaghetti coding. Spaghetti code is a bit of a funny phrase, but it basically just means when a game isn't coded very well. Typically when source code for a video game is very disorganized, it doesn't have a decent structure, and it's very difficult to maintain. Software rot can also come down to unused code that may contain bugs and go unnoticed. Now, in terms of how this applies to The Sims 4 and why there's strong evidence that there may be spaghetti coding, you may have noticed that whenever The Sims 4 gets an update to the base game, it feels like one thing is fixed, but two more things are broken. One step forward, two steps back. Like when the recent Crystal Creations stuff pack came out. Upon the base game update that came with the launch of this pack, it caused huge bugs where both hidden and active mootlets of Sims would delete.
Aber ist es nicht umso schlimmer, wenn es wirklich so ist, dass es Stück für Stück rottet und je mehr Packs und Sets und so weiter draufkommen, es nur noch schlimmer wird? Umso schlimmer, dass wir irgendwie jetzt Stand 24 die Ankündigung gekriegt haben, dass irgendwie noch 15 neue Sachen kommen sollen für die Sims 4. Alter, ist das frustrierend. Das ist ja eine Katastrophe. Da gebe ich ja mein Geld aus für jetzt und in Zukunft für ein Spiel, was pro Erweiterung nur noch schlechter wird. Immer schlechter wird als besser. Ich gebe Geld dafür aus, dass mein Spiel Stück für Stück weniger funktioniert, mehr kaputt ist. Ich kann also auch einfach mein Geld nehmen und es in den Mülleimer schmeißen. Das wäre derselbe Effekt.
This caused many random bugs like Sims pregnancies terminating themselves, Sims not experiencing the correct mood, and a ton of other things. When the high school years base game update came out, this resulted in an incestuous glitch in the game. It also caused a bug where teen Sims would have romantic sentiments towards adult Sims, which is obviously very inappropriate. And this is what I mean by one step forward, two steps back, because when the coding of a video game is quite unstructured, it can cause very volatile and unexpected things to happen. And
ich weiß nicht, wie es euch geht, aber ich gucke die ganze Zeit rechts auf dieses Etwas auf dem Bett, weil ich mich immer frage, ob es sich bewegt oder nicht. Schreibt mal in die Kommentare, ob ihr das auch macht. Das fasziniert mich irgendwie.
With a game getting increasingly more and more complex, with The Sims getting so many packs, so many updates, it's inevitable that it just gets a little bit more and more messy. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not blaming the video game developers, because the term spaghetti coding is often used as an insult in the game development world, and I certainly do not mean it as an insult. In fact, as a guess, I would suggest that this issue is likely to be more related to a lack of team structure. We know the Sims team is not a team in a singular office. It's actually spread very far and wide, not just in the US, but around the world. You've got multiple people working on a singular game all around the world. And then, of course, we had the pandemic from which everybody was working from home. So trying to get a group of people to work on coding a video game whilst all being in separate spaces, it must be very difficult. Also, based on how many job listings there are constantly for The Sims 4, I'm just making an assumption that there's a high turnover. And if there was a high turnover where people were constantly going and leaving, you've got different people coming in and out of the coding development cycle of a video game, especially for a game that's been out for almost 10 years. It's almost like having to pick off where somebody else started, but the way you go about things may be slightly different. I am not a professional software developer, so these are just assumptions that I have made based on my research of what software rot is and how it can be caused. So this is not a definite reason as to why The Sims 4 is constantly breaking down, but it's a likely reason. And I'd like to go back to the point I made earlier, which was about unused code, because unused coding can contribute very heavily to software rot. Now, there is a ton of evidence that The Sims 4 was originally designed to be an online multiplayer game, codename Project Olympus, and then this project was alleged, and within the space of a year, they had to remake Project Olympus from the ground up, from a multiplayer game into the single-player Sims 4 experience we now know. And in fact, people have found references to Project Olympus in the coding of The Sims 4, suggesting that the game likely does have a lot of unused code, which may or may not contribute to it. I don't know, because I'm not a professional software developer, but I think any reasonable person could put two and two together. In fact, The Sims 4 performed very, very terribly upon launch. There's evidence suggesting that the way it was developed was so bad. That's why, for example, The Sims 4 doesn't really have an open world like The Sims 3 did, and is still missing a ton of features that we had in previous Sims games, but we don't have in The Sims 4. It seems to have been made in a very different way, which has been having a knockback effect on it all this time. And when you're working with a fundamentally broken game from the offset, naturally it just gets even more broken over time, especially seeing that it's been out now roughly 10 years. Based on the compelling evidence we have for Project Olympus, The Sims 4 was never really meant to be released. It was supposed to be an online multiplayer game, and based on what we've actually heard about Project Renee, which is the codename for The Sims 5, seeming that they've spoken so much about this whole online multiplayer thing with Project Renee and cross-platform compatibility with Project Renee, it almost seems like a resurgence of Project Olympus, Project Olympus 2.0, what The Sims 4 was likely originally meant to be. It seems like they're finally doing that with Project Renee. I've noticed a lot of people blame The Sims 4's issue.
Doch, es lebt! Es lebt! Okay, es ist ja wirklich, also ich war mir wirklich unsicher, aber es ist echt. Die Katze ist echt.
Nein, doch. On not enough testing. Whenever a new pack gets released, there's always a wave of people complaining that it's broken, and there's also another wave of people who says, why aren't they testing the game? They should be testing the games. Actually, based on the credits of every Sims 4 pack, it seems like they are actually testing the packs that are being released. As far as I'm aware, in the development cycle of a video game, when the testers test the game, they normally compile a list of everything that's broken. Maybe they will list it based on the frequency of bugs or how severe they are, and then they take these to the development team and they say, hey, these are the bugs that we found, and then the producer of the game would normally decide, these are the bugs that we're going to fix before launch, these are the ones that we're going to patch in after launch, and these are the ones that are going to get ignored. This is how I've been told that
Warum ist die Übersetzung plötzlich weg?
The development cycle of testing a game normally works. I don't know if it's that way for the Sims team and the Sims 4, because it can be different, but I've heard that's generally how it goes. So I'm highly confident that EA does know that packs have bugs in them before release, especially when you look at packs like My Wedding Stories.
Na, vielleicht hat Hochzeitsgeschichten bei denen ja super funktioniert. Bis heute? Und die wissen gar nicht, warum wir uns aufregen.
Das war ein Witz, ne?
So blatantly obvious. So I wouldn't say it's an issue with the game not being tested.
Ich möchte so gerne mal wissen, als sie das aufgenommen haben für den Trailer, wie viel die geflucht haben, als sie das aufgenommen haben. Ob sie da einfach so, keine Ahnung, die Animation abgespielt haben per Postplayer oder ob da jemand wirklich, keine Ahnung, hunderte von Stunden geflucht hat, um das einmal hinzukriegen. Wobei man kann ja auch alles so perfekt hinschneiden, dass es so wirkt, als wenn es in einem Rutsch perfekt funktioniert hat.
But just more so an issue with the way the game is being built up. And again, I'm not blaming the developers, because you could be, for example, the best chef in the entire world, but if you don't have the right ingredients, you're not going to be able to bake the best cake. Skill can only get you so far if you don't have the right ingredients. And I get the impression that's the the issue with the software rot problem with The Sims 4, it seems to have not been built up very great from the ground up. It seems not to have been optimized very well. And this is why I believe The Sims 4 is just suffering with every single pack release, every single base game update. And the more features that they add, the more complex it is, and the more things are likely to break. And a lot of older Sims 4 features, unfortunately, they kind of just get forgotten about and they get lost and broken forever. And with more and more things breaking, it creates this issue where if you try to fix one problem, it may cause two other things to break. So you may not want to fix that problem, because if you did fix a problem and something else breaks, then you have to fix this new problem, which will cause two more things to break, and so on and so on and so on. Do I think The Sims 4 is going to deteriorate to the point where it's totally unplayable? Absolutely, yes, I do. This is actually something that we saw with The Sims 3. In fact, when you attempt to play The Sims 3 now, The Sims 3 launcher states, select only a couple of packs at a time to ensure the best game experience.
Du liebes
I honestly
bisschen.
think it's got to the point now where they're gonna have to implement a similar system in The Sims 4 where they recommend that you don't load every single pack into your game. The way The Sims 3 just broke down over the long term just because too many packs were released was so evident, and it's also very evident the same thing is happening with The Sims 4 but even worse. Yet The Sims 4 has been out even longer for The Sims 3 and we've already been told that we've got years left of content to come for The Sims 4. They've even said that we'd be getting content for The Sims 4 whilst Project Renee is released, at least in early access. So it seems like they're not stopping anytime soon, and it's very surprising to me that they're confident in being able to release new content for the game. One of the most popular types of mods for The Sims 4 are bug fix mods. There are modders who dedicate themselves to creating bug fix mods for The Sims 4.
Ist das nicht traurig? Und die machen das alles umsonst.
Which EA have never been able to fix themselves. So we've established that the ship is sinking. It's just a matter of time of how quickly is it sinking and when will it sink to the point where it's fully submerged underwater, it's drowned and it's never coming back. It seems like a shame for The Sims 4 to get to the point where it's just completely broken to the point of no return and unplayable for everybody. I think that would be a massive shame, especially considering how expensive the packs are. I personally think they should leave it in good standing. Well, it was in bad standing at the state of release, but at least in an okay standing where it's not totally broken and unplayable. I feel like that would be the most tasteful way they could go about it, because I'd hate to think people will waste their money on buying packs for the game just to end up rotting into nothing, which I don't really know if something like that would theoretically be totally possible. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how The Sims 4 plays out. If you would like some more information on everything that's...
Das ist richtig frustrierend gerade. Aber wahr. Aber wahr. Ich bin gerade ein bisschen geschockt. Also wie immer, Daumen nach oben, abonnieren. Ich beschäftige mich gerade sehr viel mit dem Thema, aber eben ruhiger. Ihr wisst, dass ich sehr gerne sehr viel ausraste und mich aufrege, was es ja im Endeffekt nicht besser macht. Also versuche ich gerade viel, mich einfach als Laie in dieses Thema reinzuarbeiten, weil ich es einfach sehr interessant finde. Ich habe jetzt auch einfach literally beschlossen, dass ich direkt im Anschluss das Video von A Normal Disaster gucken werde, warum Sims 4 nie richtig funktionieren wird. Dazu wird es dann also auch nochmal eine Reaction geben, weil dieses Video so unfassbar wichtig ist. Ich finde, dass das wichtig für euch ist zu wissen, dass Sims 4 Stück für Stück schlechter wird und ob ihr wirklich trotzdem weiterhin euer Geld investieren wollt und sagt, ja gut, noch funktioniert es, ist mir wert, und wie wir damit umgehen wollen. Ja, das war jetzt ein nicht so gut gelauntes Video, aber ich finde, es war wichtig und ich werde dazu auch nochmal ein eigenes Video machen. Also falls ihr auf dem Laufenden bleiben wollt, gerne ein Däumchen und gerne ein kleines und kostenloses Abo, damit unser Kanal weiter wächst. Falls du noch weitere spannende Reactions sehen möchtest, schau da vorbei. Oder hier, da empfiehlt YouTube dir ein Video. Und ansonsten fühl dich umärmelt, deine Rorania.